Despite not having his best stuff, Kodai Senga still delivered 6 shutout innings. Juan Soto hit multiple home runs. The New York Mets salvaged a 500 road trip.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're watching Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. I've been covering the New York Mets on this show since the 2019 season, and this is the only podcast that covers the Mets 7 days a week throughout the regular season. You can also find some of my written work over at justbaseball.com, where I work as the managing editor. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Now, the Mets had a task at hand on Wednesday. They had to find a way to win a series, and in doing so, they salvaged a 500 road trip as they won one of their 3 games in St. Louis, so they needed to win this series to come home with a 3-3 trip on the road, but also, more importantly, by winning this game, they evened up the season series against the Arizona Diamondbacks at 3 wins apiece. Last year, it was a tiebreaker that allowed the Mets to make the playoffs over the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks lost out in a 3-way tie between the Mets, the Braves, and, of course, Arizona. So these games against teams that are going to compete for a playoff spot in the National League are so vital. You never know what the standings are going to look like at the end of the season. So this was, in a weird way, a must-win game for the Mets, and they got the job done, and they did it despite the fact that Kodai Senga looked pretty much awful in the first couple of innings. He had no feel of the zone. He was trying to find it, just going fastball cutter. It wasn't working for him. He walked 5 of the first 10 batters that he faced, and yet did not allow a run, which is a riddle. How do you walk half of the first 10 batters that you face and not give up anything? Well, here's how it happened. First inning, he issues a leadoff walk to Corbin Carroll. Luis Torrens, though, gunned him out trying to steal a base, so that erased one of the walks. He then stranded another walk as he got a pop-up and a ground out in that inning. So 2 walks in the first, neither comes around to score. Second inning, he issues another leadoff walk, then picked up his first strikeout of the game before giving up a double that nearly scored a run, but the Mets had an outstanding play defensively. Tyrone Taylor fielding it off the wall, delivering a perfect throw to Francisco Lindor, who delivered an even better throw home on one hop right to Luis Torrens where he needed it to lay down an easy tag to get the runner out at the plate. An amazing play. Kodai Senga, very appreciative for that defense. He then picked up another strikeout to get out of that inning. But then in the third inning, he issues 2 walks to open things up. There's a mound visit. He has to try to collect himself. And he also got a huge favor from the Diamondbacks as they went to lay down a bunt to advance the runners. Luis Torrens, again with the great defense, pounces on it, able to gun down the runner at third to get the lead runner and keep, well, the double play would have been in order either way, but still a great play by Torrens. And then on the next pitch, Kodai Senga gets a double play ball. So you go from being on the ropes, having issued 5 walks to the first 10 batters that you faced. He was at 48 pitches and had only gotten 6 outs. 2 runners on, nobody out in the third inning. There's a bunt on the second pitch of an at-bat, and then 1 pitch later, a double play ball, 3 pitches. He's out of the inning at 51 pitches, which really salvaged what was a rough start to the day. And from there, he found it. He ended up locating his slider, and that was a huge pitch for him throughout the rest of the start. Locked in a 1-2-3 fourth inning on 11 pitches, a 1-2-3 fifth inning on 9 pitches. Couple of tougher fought at bats in the 6th inning, but an 18-pitch frame. Ultimately, Kodai Senga gets through 6 innings. He allowed just 2 hits, the double and a base hit to Corbin Carroll to lead off the 6th inning. Walks those 5, but after they laid down the bunt in the third, did not issue another walk. Throws 89 pitches to get through 6 shutout innings. Another quality start for Kodai Senga. Through 7 starts this season, he has a 1.16 ERA, what I've talked about in past episodes about Kodai Senga is that ability to not have your best stuff, but still make big pitches. A lot of times it's getting strikeouts near the bottom of the lineup to bail himself out of some jams that he put himself into. It's the ability to get a ground ball when he desperately needs it to get a double play. It's reminding us all that Kodai Senga is a legit ace in this league and a guy that right now is a fringe Cy Young candidate. Granted, there's Paul Skeens, who has been outstanding and is going to be the favorite the whole way through and probably wins the award barring health. But Kodai Senga could be looking at a top 5 Cy Young finish. I would not be surprised at all. And we'll see if he qualifies for it, but an ERA title. He might not get enough innings to qualify, but man, a 1.16 ERA through 7 starts is exceptional. On the other side, though, Merrill Kelly was great as well. The only run he allowed through the first 6 innings was a solo home run to Juan Soto, hit an absolute bomb, 427 feet dead central. You have to get it up high in center field at Arizona because they have that line that sort of juts up on the batter's eye, essentially. And he ends up getting into the first row, those limited seats out there. So huge swing by Soto. Kelly stayed on in the 7th inning. Luis Torrens hit a leadoff double. Brett Beatty moved them over with the ground out. Luis Angel Acuna with the drawn in infield ripped a single up the middle to score Torrens. Acuna then stole his 9th base of the season, but he didn't really need to because Jeff McNeil split the gap in right center field for an RBI triple. He was removed from the game because of a cramp, but Carlos Mendoza said after that he's fine. So the Mets score a couple runs in that inning to make it a 3-0 lead. Max Kranick pitches a scoreless 7th. Juan Soto leads off the 8th with another home run. This one an opposite field shot. Corbin Carroll matched him with the leadoff homer in the bottom half of the 8th. Kranick got 1 out in the bottom half. Then Huascar Brazaban came on to get the final 2 outs of that inning. The 9th inning, Francisco Lindor cashed in a pair of walks with an RBI double. Bagging from the right side, he ripped one into the left field corner. He then stole third base, although they have now ruled it defensive indifference, putting himself 90 feet away from Juan Soto, and Soto hit the sac fly for his 3rd RBI of the game. Gave the Mets their 7th run. Ryan Stanek worked an easy 9th. The Mets cruised to a 7-1 victory. Great way to end a road trip. Great way to carry some momentum into the off day. And now the Mets will come home to face off against the Cubs and the Pirates, still in first place, despite the Phillies, who are playing very well right on their heels. Really good game by the Mets. Kodai Senga delivering again. But Juan Soto, another multi-home run game over the past week. He's had 2 of those. I want to talk about how good Soto has been and how this Mets lineup is actually very underrated. We're going to go through all of that in just a minute. First, though, quick word from our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by Supply House. Get supplies from the site that's made for skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And if you're a trade pro looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use the promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action, and FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, giving fans more ways than ever to play smart and win big. The New York Knicks are up 2-0 on the Boston Celtics. If you think Jalen Brunson's going to have a big game 3 as the series returns to the Garden, you can combine his points in a same-game parlay for the Knicks to win. that's one way to play. Also, as a Mets fan, if you want to look towards some awards futures, you have that as well. I like Luis Angel Acuna right now for Rookie of the Year. Got some long odds, but I think he's going to be in the race. So you can find that over at FanDuel as well. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. If you're watching on YouTube today, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Help us get closer to our next goal of 14,000 subscribers. If you're liking the video, throw a like on it and leave a comment. Do you think Juan Soto is going to do what he did this past week and hit 4 more home runs over his next 7 games? Might sound a little bit crazy, but Soto is getting hot. I think the numbers are going to start to really roll in for him. Over the past week, hitting 346, 455, 885 slug. That's what happens when you have 2 multi-home run games, 4 homers in the past week to take his season total from 3 to 7. And all of a sudden, you look at his numbers for the season through 38 games. He's hitting 261, getting on base at a 385 clip, slugging at a 478 clip. That is an 863 OPS. Now, for most guys, that's outstanding. He has the second best OPS on the Mets. Despite all of the concerns that Juan Soto isn't getting acclimated to the Mets, and he's not the same guy, and he's struggling. He's the second best hitter on this team to Pete Alonso, who's been the best hitter in the National League. On a lot of teams, Soto might still be a team's best hitter with an 863 OPS, and he leads the team with 29 runs scored and also leads the team with 29 walks, and I just think the numbers are going to keep snowballing for him. It's funny because I did a show about Soto 3 days ago. When will the luck change for Juan Soto? Because he had that home run that was robbed from him. Could have been a 5th homer of the week. When Victor Scott went up and robbed one, that was another opportunity. But you look at some of the stats from that episode, I talked about his batting average against fastballs. And I believe that was probably before that doubleheader. Like I'm sure those stats weren't factored in at Baseball Savant at the time, just like I don't believe today's stats would be factored in. But at the time, 3 days ago, Juan Soto was hitting 226 against fastballs on the year. Now it's up to 279. So it's crazy how quickly that can change. His slugging percentage on fastballs back over 500. Last year, he slugged over 700 against fastballs and hit well over 300 on fastballs. So it just shows you that there is still room for much, much more. All of the batted ball data points to Juan Soto still being one of the best hitters in baseball and does not show any signs of slip up or regression of anything, which is what I talked about on that show a couple days ago, that there was nothing in his stats that indicates that he is going to have a prolonged slump for the entire season. The one thing I pointed out was his barrel rate, which is down, and that's just something that can quickly change. Couple home runs, that's certainly going to help. Let me look and see if there has been an update in those 3 days since I checked. I'd imagine maybe a slight uptick. Again, I don't know if those home runs are already going to be factored in there. It is up a little bit. I think it was somewhere in the 9 range the last time I checked. Now it's over 10.7. A couple more barrels today. It could be all of a sudden up a little bit more for his career. His barrel percentage is 13.8%. So if he did now get a couple more upticks, if this doesn't include the 2 home run game today, all of a sudden he might be closer to his career norm. Last year, his barrel percentage was 19.7%, which is insane. So there's even more room for his ceiling to grow and for this guy to put up even better numbers. Don't be surprised if Juan Soto at some point this year does catch Pete Alonso to OPS. It's going to take some time. Pete has had a great start, and I wouldn't expect Pete to slow down drastically, but a slight regression of the mean for Alonso and Juan Soto taking off a little bit, those numbers could get a lot closer than you would expect. And I think the crazy thing is we've talked about this offense and how the pitching has carried the Mets. I was curious. I just wanted to see, how bad has this offense been at times? Is it better than we really understand it or realize? And what's crazy is the Mets started slow offensively. We know that. once they got out to Sacramento to square off against the A's, play that minor league ballpark, the lineup has really shot off like a rocket since then. If you look at the stats through the first 12 games played this season, opening day through April 10th, which was an off day leading into that series against the A's, the Mets were 20th in Major League Baseball in runs scored, 21st in team OPS the first 12 games. Over the past 26 games, the Mets have the fourth highest team OPS in all of Major League Baseball, and they're tied with the Reds for the second most runs scored in Major League Baseball and the first most in the National League. So this offense has actually been, for the past 3 weeks and change, more like the past 4 weeks, one of, if not the best offense in baseball. And Soto has only really gotten going to this rate over the past week, where he can take things to another level. Over that 26-game span, it's been Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor that have really carried the team, as has guys like Tyrone Taylor has pretty good numbers over that span. Mark Vientos actually has pretty good numbers over that span. This team has such a high ceiling offensively. It's what we talked about all offseason. When you have a 1-3 of Francisco Lindor, Juan Soto, and Pete Alonso, that is something that the opposing team has to think about, and that's something they have to game plan around 4 times at least every game, where you got to square off against those guys. And for a starting pitcher, if you're trying to make it through a lineup 3 times, it is really tough to go through that 1-3 multiple times. You really better hope you get Lindor out. And then maybe you can challenge Soto, and if you walk him, you pray you can get Pete out, or you walk him and hope you can, do something with those other guys. But then when the lineup turns over and Luisangel Acuña's batting ninth and he gets on, now that's just even more pressure that the opposing pitcher has to feel and go through to try to put up a 0 against this Mets team. I really look at that top 3 in the lineup. There's few teams in baseball that can match it. I mean, you got the Dodgers, obviously, with Betts, Ohtani, and Freeman. I mean, that's the one that really stands out. But outside of that, I don't know if there's another team that has 3 guys this good atop their lineup. And Soto has that ability to elevate his performance so much greater. He's at an 863 OPS, and that would be the second lowest of his career. His career OPS is over 950. So that is 100 points of OPS that's still on the table for him to get to his career norm. And I wouldn't be surprised if he gets there. He's bumped his OPS by like 50 points in the past week at least. Let's actually check that one, because that's going to be a market jump. And you look, he's leading the major leagues in home runs in May because he has 4 in this past week. What if he does that a couple more times this month? All of a sudden, if he has a 12 home run month, I mean, that's absurd production. I'm looking now to see what the OPS was. So he had a 368 on base and a 384 slug on April 30th. I'm not even going to try to do that math. I'll do 368 on the calculator, add it up with 384, something like 9 or 8 or 7. Jeez. This is why I shouldn't have said a word. I should let the calculator do it for me. A 752 OPS a week ago. So I stand corrected. He's added 100 points to his OPS. Actually, 111 points to his OPS in a week. That's what 4 home runs will do to you. He could be at 900 by Monday if he has a big series against the Cubs. And you still have Pete performing at an MVP level. You have Lindor sustaining what he did in the second half of last year when he was an MVP. That's 3 guys that have the ability to elevate their game to an MVP level atop your lineup. So this team is sort of underrated now offensively. I just think that they're going to be able to really continue to pick things up and, carry the pitching staff that has been good in their own right. But even if the pitching staff slides back, I still think that this lineup can make up for that. And that's what's really exciting. That's why you sign Juan Soto. And I think Mets fans are going to start to appreciate him more and more as you watch him work a season and continue to improve, get into a really comfortable place. And we've yet to see Juan Soto in a very comfortable place, but I think he's there right now. and that could make him a very dangerous hitter in the upcoming series and all the series to come. It's going to be a lot of fun to see him evolve throughout this season. What I want to do to close out the show is talk about a signing the Mets made. They picked up a left-handed reliever on a minor league deal that has some upside, and also they have a top prospect coming through the system now that could make an impact in this bullpen soon. I want to talk about the Mets, pivoting towards new left-handed options for that bullpen in just a minute. First, though, quick word first from our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Are you looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios, one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you feel fuller, longer. Personally, I love the no shells variety. It's the perfect grab and go snack for busy days, whether I'm snacking at my desk, I'm going on the road and I want to bring something with me. If I'm on the golf course, I love my Wonderful Pistachios. I love the smoky barbecue flavor. I also enjoy the sea salt and pepper, the honey roasted, so many good flavors to choose from. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. If you're an everydayer that's always tuning into the show, make sure you become a Locked On Mets insider. This is our texting service where you get updates from me anytime news breaks on the Mets. You can ask me questions anytime. You can also take part in our Locked On Mets signed photo giveaways. And you get the lineup graphic sent to your phone each day so you know who's in the starting lineup without ever having to go on social media. If you want to be a Locked On Mets insider, find the link in the episode description. Go to subtext.com/LockedOnMets. Now, on Wednesday, the Mets signed Colin Poche to a minor league deal. Poche is a 31-year-old left-handed reliever who got off to a brutal start this season with the Washington Nationals, gave up 11 runs in 8 2/3 innings pitched. However, he's had a lot of success over the last couple of years in the Rays bullpen, 3 straight years with a sub-4 ERA in their bullpen in 2022, 2023, and 2024. Also, I believe had a sub-4 ERA in 2019. I think he had Tommy John that had him out for a couple of years. He has been very good in his best season was in 2023 when he pitched to a 2.23 ERA in 60 2/3 innings pitched. Now, because of his struggles this year, he was not going to get an MLB opportunity. So he identified the Mets as the place to go to maybe get himself right. And the Mets view him as a guy that could factor into their bullpen that just lost their 2 left-handed relievers that had broke camp with the club. And they clearly need some help from that side. They have plenty of righties between the guys that are on the big league roster and guys pitching in Syracuse. They needed some lefties to add into the mix. They had Genesis Cabrera, who's up with the big league club now, and he had the longer track record in the majors that the Mets are banking on. That's why they have him in that bullpen. They have Anthony Gasse that's been in AAA all year. Now they add Poche to the mix. So we'll see how he does. The more intriguing option, though, might be a 23-year-old top prospect, Felipe De La Cruz. Now, De La Cruz made his first relief appearance in Syracuse on Wednesday. It was a game that was started by Brandon Sproat, the Mets' top overall pitching prospect. He had a good start, went 5 innings, allowed just 1 run on 2 hits and a walk, struck out 5. He has his ERA down to 4.82 on the season, and he was up to 85 pitches in this one. So a good outing for him. I do wonder if a little internal competition inspired the good start. Nolan McLean gets called up this week. There's some top 100 prospect lists that just flipped those two, where now McLean is considered the top pitching prospect in the Met system by some outlets. I'd like to see how he pitches in Syracuse first before I would make that flip, because we have seen that pitching at that level has been very difficult for some of the Mets' top pitching prospects. But those two guys now give you some really exciting starting pitching prospects that might not make an impact this year, but come next season could be real difference makers for the Mets. You'll have Christian Scott coming off Tommy John. You'll see where Blade Tidwell is at that point. Is he a starting pitcher, or does he get shortened up as a reliever? So the depth the Mets have in their rotation for this season already was really strong. And then looking towards the future, they're starting to get that internal depth with their top prospects, which is why they can take a guy in Felipe De La Cruz, who has been a starting pitcher, and say, you know what? We have a need for a left-handed reliever on our bullpen, and this kid could be our answer. So let's shorten him up. And this is after he had an outstanding start in Syracuse. He started just last week, May 2nd. The Mets needed some starting pitchers at the time. Brendan Waddell had come up to help the big league club. A lot of relievers were cycling back and forth. They just needed some innings in Syracuse. So a guy that's been stretched out in Binghamton comes up, gets a start. He had probably the best start of the season for Syracuse. 6 innings pitched, allowed just 1 hit, no walks, 9 strikeouts, 70 pitches to get through 6 innings. The Mets see that start, and they don't say, oh, well, maybe we'll keep him as a starter because he's got that upside in the future. They looked at Felipe De La Cruz, who, of those 70 pitches, Mike Mayer pointed this out on Twitter, I believe he said 66 of them were fastballs and sliders. That is who this guy is as a pitcher. He is a 2-pitch guy. And if he was going to be a starting pitcher, he'd have to round out an arsenal. But as a left-handed reliever who can get it up to 98 out of the bullpen with a good slider, that's a guy that is all of a sudden on a fast track to the big leagues. And he made his first relief appearance, put up a scoreless 1-2-3 8th inning. Then in the 9th inning, he issued a leadoff walk, picked up a strikeout, and then got a ground out before he was pulled. Austin Warren came in to relieve him to get the final out of the 9th. He had thrown 19 pitches, 11 of them strikes. I find it interesting that Austin Warren came in and relieved him. It was a close game, but I don't know if that was really why they did it. My assumption is they wanted to shorten him to 20 pitches because now you're going through the process of turning him into a reliever. And David Stearns said this, I can't remember if it was a podcast or a media session, or maybe it was the in-game interview at spring training. I can't remember, but he was talking about shortening up a top prospect. And he said once you shorten him up in season, you typically won't stretch him out again. And to me, the fact that he was at 19 pitches and they cut him off and they pulled him from the game, I think that shows that this is where they're going to shorten him up and now convert him into being a reliever, which means not having 4 days off in between innings, which he did for this one, which is why I say he could have got another batter out. He had thrown 70 pitches, 4 days prior, 5 days prior. Now you have met maybe a 20 pitch limit to start as you want him to be able to go in a couple of days. They might still give him 3 days rest for his next relief appearance. It wouldn't surprise me at all. This was Wednesday. So if he has Thursday, Friday, and Saturday off, maybe he's scheduled to pitch on Sunday. He'll get Monday off because none of the minor league affiliates play on Mondays. Maybe he has Tuesday off, and all of a sudden maybe he pitches on Wednesday. And maybe they start to have him go from 3 days rest to 2 days rest. Maybe they keep him there for a little bit, and then maybe it's 1 day's rest, and then maybe let's see what he does in a back-to-back. I don't think that the Mets are going to pull the trigger on Felipe De La Cruz at any point in the next couple weeks. I think the Mets are going to let Genesis Cabrera have some run because he has so much experience. And if he solidifies that spot, and the Mets also are going to have Paul Blackburn up soon too, which doesn't fill the need for a left-handed reliever, but it's just another arm on the roster. Who knows if they'll have room for De La Cruz at any point. But this is how David Stearns operates and how he addresses a problem. AJ Minter and Danny Young go down. Your depth for left-handed relievers evaporates. What do? Well, you navigate the waters a little bit. You then bring up Cabrera because he is a guy that has so much experience in big league bullpens that you figure even though he had gotten off to a rough start in Syracuse, he might be able to find something working with your MLB coaches. And so he's your first answer, but you're proactive. You take this top prospect that has the ability to be shortened into a reliever with a 2-pitch mix of a high velocity fastball and a good slider. You bring him up to the highest level where he's going to get challenged by hitters who are as close to big league competition as possible. You go out and you're scanning the market. Colin Poche becomes available. He's had success. You pitch him to come into the fold. He signs. And so that's how you problem solve and get through it. And I am very intrigued by Felipe De La Cruz. His strikeout to walk rate this year has been exceptional. Going into the outing today, where he struck out 2 and he only walked 1, his strikeout to walk rate was 9.67 on the season. If you're striking out 9 batters to every 1 walk, that is crazy. In 21 1/3 innings pitched this year, he has 31 strikeouts. And he's only issued 4 walks. That's over 13 strikeouts per 9 and less than 2 walks per 9. So I'm really intrigued by what Felipe De La Cruz can be for the Mets this year. But you never know. Could be Poche, could be Cabrera. The Mets all of a sudden have some options where they're hoping one of these guys can solidify a spot as the left-hand reliever in the Mets bullpen, assuming they only want one. You never know. Things evolve throughout a season. But for now, I think that's where the Mets are at with this. And it is pretty interesting to see Stearns operate in that way over the last couple of weeks. All of a sudden, the Mets have spawned some new options. And I think there's some good options. Anyway, that's going to be all for today's edition of Locked On Mets. On tomorrow's show, we're going to talk about some prospects. I did some digging into Brooklyn's lineup, so I want to talk about some of those hitters. And I think I might just do a list of some of the prospects whose stock has risen the most through a month of competition. So if you don't want to miss that, make sure that you follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. Hit subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Help us get to 14,000 subscribers. If you want to be a Locked On Mets insider, find the link in the episode description or go to subtext.com/Locked On Mets. Thank you for making Locked On Mets your first listen, your first watch every day. Now, for your second watch, check out Locked On MLB Game Night, the show that brings you around Major League Baseball with insight from all of our local experts, as well as a couple hosts that will take you through all of the action each day. You find Locked On MLB Game Night on the Locked On MLB podcast feed, as well as the Locked On MLB YouTube channel.